Hi everyone! So our first video is going to be on safety. Now it's been a little while and we may have some new students, so this is just going to be a refresher of general safety with the horses. So safety is important because these animals are pretty big. The minis, like the miniature donkeys, they can weigh around the 150 mark. Ponies like Prince are around a little close to the 1,000 mark, and some of the horses can get to 2,000 or more depending on which horse it is. So horses are also flight or fight animals. Because in the wild they would be prey animals, they have two different ways of reacting to things. So if they're scared, such as a situation like a noise behind us, or if there was a commotion in front of us, they either will fight to protect themselves, or they will flight, which means they will run to get away from whatever's going on. So if your horse, like Baxter, let's say he was choosing to fight, he would use his teeth. So all of these teeth he would use to protect himself or his herd if he was living out in the wild or with a group. He would also use his hooves. Those are the only two things that a horse has to protect themselves. So they may use their fronts, and what that means is that they will either strike, which means they will pick their foot forward and strike at whatever's in front of them, or they can use their backs to either strike forward or to kick behind them, or they can also kick to the side. Those would be the only ways that a horse could protect themselves if they choose to fight. A lot of horses will just choose the flight and will just run away from whatever situation they're encountering. Now, horses can also accidentally hurt us. Because they are the flight or the fight, if they have those scenarios, they may come to you for assistance. But even like with Prince, he's a large pony, but he's still a pretty good size. He's still around the 1,000 mark. So if something were to scare him, and he would leap towards me, that's a lot of horse. Consider this, their skull is about 100 pounds. So even just their head alone would really hurt if it got you. They may also accidentally step on your feet. So let's say that you're standing by them, and then, oh no, something scares him, and he lifts his foot and he stomps down. And if it goes on your foot, that's gonna hurt. Now, he didn't mean to. You didn't mean to do all of those things, but it can happen if we're not watching what's going on around us.
So being that horses are flight animals, it can be very easy to scare them sometimes. They're not always as brave as people are or as dogs are. So we always want to be sure when we're near the horses that we're not doing things that would accidentally scare them. So for example, with Baxter, I'm not gonna run up to him with my arms flailing around. See how that made him a little bit nervous? We don't want to make him nervous by running or screaming or making lots of loud noises, because those are all things that could accidentally scare them. I'm going to show you two ways that horses cannot see. So being that horses live out in the wild and they have to watch for predators, horses have pretty good eyesight. They can see pretty much the entire side of their body. So even when I'm back here, you can still see me, right? You can still see me back there. Two ways that horses cannot see, though, are directly in front of their face. So like my hand is here on his forehead. He can't see over there because if you look, his eyes are pointing the other directions. They're made so that he can see all along the side, but he's got a tiny area right here in front where he can't see. And that's one way where you could easily scare them, is if you came up right in front of them and you went, "Hello, Baxter," and he didn't know you were right there because he can't see you. So we always have to be careful that we're not in their blind spots. The other big area that would be their blind spot is directly behind them. So we always want to make sure that we're being careful, we're being safe, and we're letting the horse know what we're doing before we actually do it. So just like on the front, I'm going to say, "Hello, Baxter," so that he knows that I'm back here. See how he turned and looked? He went, "Oh, okay, you're back there." But again, we don't want to just run up and scare them.
So when we're working with a horse, we want to make sure that we properly place them in the wash rack. Not everywhere will have a wash rack, but we do. So a wash rack is a place where you can take them to groom them or to bathe them. So when you're in the wash rack, we use these cross ties to keep them in place. So when we're doing that, we want to make sure that we constantly have a hold of the horse. So because my lead rope's still on, I'm going to use a lead rope. I could also hold on to the halter as I clip. You always want to have a hold of your horse so they don't walk out, they don't get startled and hit the end of the rope. You want to always keep a firm grasp of them. If I was to do this without holding on to him, he has a chance of leaving. So one of the ways to not do it is if I did this and then went to grab my stuff. So see, I have no control of him, and it's not very safe because he could do whatever he wants right now. And some horses, like Prince, will move their heads a lot and may actually move their heads away from my hand. So if he were to move his head away, well, now I can't grab a hold of him. So now he's free still. If you were to go somewhere without a cross tie and without a wash rack, you could do something called a quick release knot, which means it's a way for them to become undone from something quickly in case of an emergency. So I'm just going to use his lead rope since it's the closest rope that I have and show you guys what that looks like. So again, this is a quick release knot because I can quickly undo it if there was something happening. So to do it, you want to have a firm place to hold on to. So a post is very thick, it's very sturdy versus a board that's nailed in. He could pull this board right out versus this post. It's tied into the bottom with concrete, so it's not going anywhere. We want to go around the post, make a little loop underneath, and then place another loop through it. And what that does is he can pull on this, and he's not going anywhere. So I could walk away, and he'll still be here. He's not going to be able to just leave. But if something were to happen, like a fire or a different scenario, I could pull this, and it undoes itself quickly.
Safety is also involved when you are riding. Before you can get on, you need to check your stirrups to make sure they're the right length and they're properly attached, and to check your cinch or your girth to make sure they are properly tightened. Your cinch or your girth is one of the only tools that's going to keep your saddle on your horse. If that piece isn't properly attached or isn't tight enough, your saddle will slide and you have the possibility of falling off. After your stirrups and your cinch or girth are checked, then it's time to get on. So you want to make sure that you mount in an area that there's not a lot of objects or things for you to hurt yourself or the horse with. You're going to mount the horse from the left side, putting your left foot in the stirrup. You're going to make sure that your reins are in your hand and you're holding them tight. And you'll gently swing your leg and sit in the saddle. You want to do this gently because the saddle is sitting on top of the horse's spine. So if you sit really hard onto their backs, it can cause their spine to hurt and give them discomfort and will make your ride a little bit tougher than if you had sat gently.